Hello, guys. Accidental Master Student here. So I have a guest today. Well, I've had guests. Well, my husband, but I have a guest today, my sister. So, public health, you guys know I talk about public health all the time. So, one of the biggest things is that people don't understand about public health is that public health is everywhere, right? So, now because public health we see an issue that is affecting the health of people, and then how can we fix it? And a lot of people don't think that the whole situation with schools is an issue that affects students or teachers in that. So they do. And we have to come up with a plan. And how can we, as a society and as a government and public health officials, how can we help support the students, the parents, and the teachers, right? So my sister is a teacher, a high school teacher. I know she's like, so, so, and I have a love-hate relationship with teachers because sometimes I've found myself saying, just do your job. Like, seriously, how hard is it, right? Because I'm not
Very hard.
because I'm not in that situation. I am a teacher. But I teach adults in a hospital. But she teaches high school students. And do you teach ESL students?
I teach ESL students.
ESL students. So, on top of having to teach a high school and a population that's difficult, right? You have to teach students that are not from this country, that have migrated to this country. English is not their first language. So I want her to give us a picture because we hear all these things in the news, and I listen to public radio, and I always listen to specific teachers that get on the radio, and I don't think that it's necessarily the whole picture, right? It's always everything is very negative, and I know it's difficult, but I'm hoping that by talking to my sister, there's some light there somewhere, hopefully. So, first, you teach high school, you teach ESL, which is English as a second language. I want you to tell us, how was being a teacher before COVID? So let's go back to August 2019.
Okay.
Right? That was right before we started hearing about this in November, December, that was going on the other side of the world. How was being a teacher then?
Well, really, it didn't affect us really even January of 2020. It wasn't even in our radar, at school at least. So, my professional day starts at 7:30 and it's at 3:30. So basically at 7:30, I used to get to work around 7:15. And just, get ready, write on the board what I needed, objectives and stuff, just getting the classroom ready for the students. Class used to start at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then I would teach my classes, like the usual. I didn't have like much like discipline problems. Like my students usually are very, very good. ESL kids tend to be very respectful of teachers and very
I was an ESL student.
excuse me.
I was, yeah.
So they tend to be like really respectful of teachers, and so it wasn't, it was just the typical, giving the lessons, giving assessments, calling home if something was going on, dealing with students. I used to run a group for girls too, a support group for girls in Spanish. So that was my day, basically.
So you're not just a regular teacher. You're a supervisor?
No, I'm instructional leader for my department.
Okay.
So I teach in the morning, and then in the afternoon I go to IEP meetings. I provide support to the ESS department. I'm like the language expert. So I go there, and we kids who have specific learning disability or receive special education services and also have a language need, I go to their IEP meetings and make sure that they get the services that they need. So I identify what are the services that they need, and if the IEP team considers that the kid is better served in the regular classroom, then I help identify standards, ELP, English language proficiency
So
standards
very
to use in
involved with,
the
and they don't
English
call it
classroom.
they don't call it SPED, which is special education. Now they call it ESS,
ESS,
which is what is it?
educational
Isn't it like something? It's like
support service or something.
Yeah. So you were like every day you go to work, you do your classes, you do your meetings in the afternoon, and then you go home.
Yeah.
Okay. So then that was your day, and then March of 2020 comes, because that's when, like here in Arizona, and we're talking Arizona. Here in Arizona, March of 2020, I think that was the month, because I remember at work we were like, one day you show up and you're like, oh, how are you doing? And the next day it's panic, total panic in the
Well, you know,
hospital.
we actually went to spring break. We were supposed to come back from spring break. And right before we were supposed to come back from spring break, the school district said only teachers. They sent a notice to kids not to come back on that day, on that Monday. We get to school on Monday, and they tell us, you know, we're going to hold off. We need to get your classrooms ready because you may not come back. So you may be here this week. We don't know what will happen, and you may have to go home. So that was Monday morning. And then Tuesday morning, we had a faculty meeting, and then they told us, get your stuff. We're going to start working from home. And we're like,
and it's funny how you
what?
remember like certain things. Like for me, I don't like, for me it's a blur. Like last year, like literally the last 12 months are a blur in my head, because I'm in the healthcare industry, so it's a little bit different. But you remember going to spring break and you just come back and you're like, now I have to. Were you ready
Well,
to like do you guys ever had a plan ever?
No,
Like
no,
in the
no.
back of my head, you know, like how
No.
in healthcare we have like the emergency preparedness. Like you always are ready. Like if something happens, this is what we're doing. Did you
No.
guys have anything like
No,
that? Like
we have like the evacuation drills if there's a fire, if there's a shooter, if there's stuff like that. Not a pandemic plan that everybody has to go home and you need to teach from home.
So did you have like how did you not, I don't want you to talk to me as a, I want you to talk to me as a teacher, but as a teacher that I know the type of teacher you are, because you care about your students. Because we have to be fair here. Not all teachers care. It's the same way like not all nurses care. I mean, that's nature. As a teacher that cares, because this is a special group of kids. It's
Oh no, we were.
How did you feel?
I was like wondering, how am I going to teach language online? Like, there's so much that we do that it's required of being in the classroom and being there with them, and kind of like, first of all, a lot of my kids, I teach at a school where we're a Title I school. That means that all of our students receive Title I, not qualify for Title I, which is kids who come from low socioeconomic backgrounds. And so my first thought was, how are they going to attend school? They don't have computers.
That's
A
right.
lot of my
you know.
kids don't have Wi-Fi. A lot of my kids. So what happened, and the reason I remember the faculty meeting was because I was getting over a really bad sinus infection. And
I think
remember,
you had the COVID. I think she had the
thinks
COVID.
I had COVID, but I don't know. Maybe I had COVID. I don't know. Because it started in February. That's when I caught that infection. And I lost my sense of smell and all of that.
So, okay. I'm the nurse here.
But I went to the ENT and he said it was a really bad sinus infection.
Because we didn't know about the vid until later on. So
Well, I don't know. I'm following what my doctor said. The thing is that I'm in the faculty meeting and I start coughing. And people just almost lost it. They're looking at me like, what are you doing here? Like, oh my gosh, nobody wanted to sit next to me. I'm like, they're giving me dirty looks, and I'm like, what the
I
heck?
would have been like, step away from me. But they,
that was really weird.
I would have then realized I have to be professional and not tell you to step away from me and go to
But
the
you know what?
room.
I was respectful because I knew that people, like, at this point, like, COVID was in the news already, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like thinking, people probably will think I have COVID. So I was very respectful. I stood up. So everybody's like in the cafeteria sitting at the tables, and I'm just sitting like way, far where I could hear, but I'm coughing. And, like, you feel like you have to tell people, no, I have a sinus infection. It's not COVID.
I know.
Like, you have to tell people because people are looking at you like all dirty.
And you would have told me and I would have been like, no, you don't. You got COVID.
So the thing is that...
Now, and it's so funny that now we can laugh. But I'm going to tell you, like, up until... maybe a month ago, like, I couldn't, like, this was not like, even having conversations with family and they say like, oh no, it's not that serious, I will just stand up and be like, you do not need to be in the same space, because I've seen it from a very different perspective. So you are like now worried about, first of all, you're worried about your kids because you have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're worried about yourself, your husband, your job.
And actually, to be totally honest, I was worried that I was not going to be able to do a good job. And that was my biggest concern. Like, so my district did the responsible thing. They sent teachers home. They told us, grab everything that you think you're going to need for your lessons, take them. And then our district gave us a whole week to get ready and prepared. And then they used that time to start, which to me was a monumental task of becoming, from one day to the next, a one-to-one district. And that means one kid, one device, right? So what our district did is that all the laptops that we had, period, like they bought laptops, and then all the laptops the school had that we had in our computer carts, some computer carts newer than others, they just emptied those laptop carts and just started distributing computers. So they had freshmen come in. They had freshmen come in one day. The first people who got laptops were seniors.
Okay.
Then juniors, then sophomores, and the last ones were freshmen. Everything was distributed. Our district ordered hotspots, not only for our students, a lot of our employees, they now have access to reliable internet at their homes.
And there's areas, because I have nurses that live in this area of town, and they have to go to the hospital to use the computers because their area, there's a spot that there's no Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So they did their work. And this is good. And I think this is very important for people to hear, because I see it from a parent perspective. They don't know what they're doing. Like, they're not doing anything.
Well, let me tell you.
When in reality, we don't see what they're doing because everything is behind.
Well, let me tell you something. And I'm happy that you invited me to do this, because it's true. A lot of people don't know how chaotic it was for a school district. Is such a huge institution, right? Like, it's this system that is so huge, and it's so... It's a type of institution that doesn't really have a lot of things shake it like this was. This was like a monumental move. It's like something that may take, if you want to do a digital school, like it takes years of planning, and then you have to find like the teachers that are used to an online environment. This is like everyone has to go online.
We have the coding high school took how many years to plan?
The coding academy took a while, but we have the digital academy, and that took years.
Right?
Years,
right?
But this is taking the whole district, and not only you have young teachers that are like technologically savvy, but you have a lot of really experienced teachers that they're really good on face-to-face instruction, but they're not necessarily the most technologically able people. And so even me, and the funny thing is that, so our district sends us and they say, we're going to use the Teams platform.
I love Teams.
We're just going to put it in your computer. And then you have to show up tomorrow to an 8:00 meeting. and they showed us Teams, right? Like right there. The next day, we're going to all these services on how to use Teams, the platform, how to do like all of this. And so we had basically 1 week to learn it. And then supposedly the following week, we were going to have kids join us. And so we are learning Teams while our students are learning Teams. And then we're supposed to teach our students
how to use
it.
And I know because I use Teams in the hospital, and we actually got Teams in our computers. The education team got Teams in our computer. I want to say like at the beginning, mid 2019. And when COVID hit and we had to do our classes virtually, which I totally do not like. I love that. I love that having the student there, because like I teach like this. I move and I explain and I make all these signs. And we had team, and when we went to March, April doing Teams, it was still a year, and there's so much. Well, so I cannot even imagine
when you
how
teach
to learn it.
Yeah, when you teach ELD kids, like so you have the language constraint, the language barrier. You have the technology barrier, because a lot of them, although they had used computers at school, they were not used to, okay, so this is how you download documents in your computer. This is how you upload the assignment. This is how you do X, Y, and Z. And so a lot of teachers were learning. And our district, though, I must say, our district came up with this. They had a team of people every day available from the moment school day started to the end of the day, where you can just shoot an email or a message through Teams, and they would answer right back.
That's really good.
So we had like a constant, like a help desk that was just their job. Like the technology educators in our district were all together in a team, and we could just go into that team. And then they created channels. You know how in Teams you have channels?
So they have channels.
They had a channels for Teams. They had a channel for Outlook. They had a channel for Google. They had a channel for Flipgrid, for all these other like Nearpod, all these different softwares that we use. So they had a different channel. So you would go there, and a technology educator that was just like an expert on that would be there. OneNote, anything was in there.
Yeah, I love OneNote and Teams.
Our quarter, how we finished the 2019-2020 year was basically, we were told, you're not to give new grades. Everything that the kids do from now until the end of the year is going to be to make up missing work. You can give them stuff to enrich. You can give them stuff to improve grades, but you cannot lower their grades.
Okay.
So basically, our grade books were locked. Like, we couldn't go and add new homework or new assignments. We were to reteach those areas where the kids had.
So if you had a kid that waits until the end to raise their grades, they were.
Well, actually.
Or could you use some of that work to?
So they could resubmit. They could hire it, but we couldn't. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's good.
So you could improve your grade, but your grade wasn't going to go damaged. But there was a problem with that, though. We had kids that they said, "Oh, I have a C in class. I'm happy with my C, so I don't have to do anything else." So they would not show to classes. They would not do anything.
So what did you do?
So our district in particular had a campaign called Every Student Every Day. So we were assigned, so we have something called advisory, which is like basically homeroom, if you're familiar with that. So every day we called our homeroom kids at home. So through Teams or on the phone. So we had to call and we had to document every day.
How many students do you have?
So in my homeroom was kind of small. So I had, I think it was about 16 kids, but everybody had 16 kids. So what they wanted to make sure was that no student went without contact, human contact from somebody. So we did that, but we also, in our department, because our population is different, we made sure that we also did our ELD kids. So I was calling weekly over 50 kids weekly.
Oh my gosh. So on top of work, you have to call the kids
to
and
make
then
sure they're okay.
and then I'm sure there's students that email you for other questions, so you have to do that. So
Graduation, all of that, because that was another thing. We had seniors and we didn't know what was going to happen with graduation. They were all asking about prom. They were all asking about, all the other things that we usually do for seniors.
and they missed out.
So they missed that. We ended up doing a drive-through graduation. Our district, what they did is that they did drive-through graduations. So we were our teachers and we have signs and they're driving through in their cars. And then the student got down. The principal was with the diplomas on a little stage, makeshift stage. And so they would drive through and all the teachers were like, wow, for every senior. And then they got out of the car, got their diploma, got back in their car, kept driving. And I think there was an area where they could have a picture taken and then they got in their car. And that was graduation, basically. And then one day at 8 o'clock, all the high schools, and I'm sure that you saw them, had fireworks.
Yes.
So all the high schools in our area, in my district, did a full-blown firework for 10 straight minutes. It was just marvelous.
It was nice. I liked
really nice fireworks to celebrate the class of 2020. Then the fall comes and everything was virtual. We didn't know if we were going to come in person. We didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, it was always like, it was like very touchy, like yay, no, like.
Because we had a spike in the summer.
So we had a spike in the summer and then it went down a little bit and then it started spiking again like October, November. It was really, really bad. And then now it's low, but so you start again, but do you feel more comfortable or do you still feel like, okay, it's still new because, I mean, you leave for the summer, around 2 months, and you have to come and start. Do you start from zero? Do you feel that way? Do you have to retrain some of the students on how to use the computers?
So what happened with us, particularly, I'm just going to talk about ELD. So in the state of Arizona adopted new standards that started this year. And not only did they started new standards, but then the law changed. So we went from a 4-hour model to a 2-hour model. So we were not only learning the new standards, we were also learning how to teach the new courses. And then it's new textbooks. So everything was new.
Oh my God.
And because of COVID, we didn't get our textbooks until December. So from August to December, we are scrambling as teachers to create materials, to do with the kids. So our district did this thing of, you know what, let's include in our classes some social emotional learning. And so it was a lot about thinking about the student as a whole person, not just as a student, but also about what are the needs that they have at home, because a lot of our parents lost jobs. Their economic situation worsened. A lot of our students were losing family members. I have a student who lost 3 family members due to COVID.
And how are they supposed to then go to school and focus? And
it's extremely hard. And then we have kids who have thrived in the online environment, but we have a lot of kids who have struggled.
Yes.
We have a lot of kids who, home is full of distractions, and we have a lot of our parents that need to work, and then how can you, and we have a lot of kids who are taking care of little sisters and little brothers.
Yeah.
And they say, Miss, I'll be right back. I need to get my sister ready for school. So they have to log off from their own work so that they can set up their little brother or sister with the computer. And then I had a student who was sitting in the computer, and then next to it, they had a first grader. And the little first grader would be like, I don't know how to do this. So I could hear, if my student was with the microphone on to say something, he would have to mute, and
you will see him doing work. Or
that's the thing. Like at the beginning, a few of them turn on their cameras, but most of the time students don't turn on their cameras. So as a teacher, that has been the hardest part, is teaching to the void, because many students do not turn on their cameras. They do not respond. You don't know if they're listening or not. I know that I have students that are trying their best. I have some students who simply turn on their camera and go back to sleep. because the parents have told me.
But yeah, and I know that because that is not just high school, because when I teach, one day I was teaching, and after 2 hours I'm like, okay, no one is answering, so I feel like I was talking to myself. I feel like Rick Grimes on season 1, episode 3, when he's like, Morgan, Anderson. I feel,
hello, are you there?
I know. I feel like that, and this is grown up people. So then, I can't imagine I have a high schooler. I'm not. I mean, and he's special education, and he's a struggle. So I can imagine, and then parent we're lucky, but it just imagining all those struggles. So these are things that we don't see. I just see what I see from my aunt, but we don't see the struggles the teachers go, because believe it or not, some teachers do care about the kids. And I could tell you, like, I had one of my teachers for my son. She calls him mijo, and she's always texting us, calling us on the weekends. How is that? How is he doing? How is he doing? Like, there's teachers that really do care. We don't hear about that.
I have kids sending me. So Teams has been interesting because prior to COVID, I did not have as much contact with my students as I have now, because prior to COVID, like, they come to my class, they're with me for that period,
And then they leave.
And I don't hear from them until the next day. Sometimes they stop by, hey miss, have a good day, or whatever, and they leave, right? Now they can message me at 6:00 at night. I was getting messages on Teams at 2:00 in the morning. 2:00.
They're young.
And they're like, Miss, do we have school tomorrow? And I'm like, oh my gosh, serious? Like, yes, baby, it's a Monday. You have school.
Well, they're all hoping. They're hopeful. They're hopeful.
And so, so I started telling them, you know what, creating that balance between work and home was really hard at the beginning. Because they're like, hey, wait a minute.
Access
I can,
24/7.
because they usually don't have my phone number so that they can text me. But now they have Teams. And they can message me.
Yes.
So it's really funny because I have Teams on my cell phone.
Oh.
So it's almost like they're texting me.
See,
right?
but that's like so I have my email, but then I refuse to put Teams on my cell phone, because I tell I tell my nurses, I don't, like, Friday at 5, like, my phone doesn't exist until Monday morning at 8. But in reality, like, the other day, one nurse called me and she's freaking out because she thinks she's gonna lose her license. She did not lose her license, but and it's Saturday, and I'm like in the middle of the kitchen saying, you will not, you lose your license, you are good. But it's just finding that balance is difficult. But then, how do you, like, now it's almost the end of the year and you're in person. Well, you're in the school, but the kids are not.
They are, but not all of them. So our district was always put metrics first. So our district said from the beginning, we're going to follow numbers. We're not going to follow politics. So what they did is that they said, when the metrics are below this number, then we'll ask our staff to come. So in our district was full-time online the whole first semester.
Okay.
And I know our school board and our superintendent caught a lot of heat because a lot of school districts in Arizona and charter schools were opening since September.
I have friends that the schools did not close at all. They were always open, 100%.
No,
so that's kind of crazy.
My district said, we're not going to do that. Our employees and our staff's health and safety is first, and our student safety is first, so we're not going to open. So they first put October, right, which is second quarter. Second quarter came and the metrics were still too high. And because our district covers some areas that their numbers were still in red.
Yeah.
So
they followed the whole, they didn't chop off the district.
No, they followed the whole
all
thing.
Or nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good.
So then the goal was January, and then we had like a little tiny spike over the Christmas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So our district said, you know what? Numbers are going up again, so we're not going to open. And then they made this plan and they published it, sent it to the families and to the teachers. Our plan moving forward, I think it's the name of the document, and it delineated these are the decisions, this is what we're following. They put like beautiful graphics with all the statistics, and then they said this is the model that our teachers are going to follow. So we're in a hybrid model right now. So that means that in March, after spring break, after a whole full year, teachers went back to campus.
Oh my God.
And it was like the weirdest thing.
Did it feel, again, I'm just going to say it, did it feel like The Walking Dead?
Yes, it did. It was like
when they walk into the CDC,
yeah.
and they're like,
no. If the weirdest place in the world, I think it's a high school that you're so used to hear noise of kids and teenagers.
It's
and
busy.
drama.
That high school is like very loud and busy.
There was nothing, like total silence. And then like the teachers, we were asked to not congregate, so we wear masks and we are to go straight. We do a health screening, and in that health screening that we do on the phone, we have to notify where on campus we're going to be. And then so we bring our health screenings to the because we get a green check. We have to show the security guard our check, and then he takes our temperature. And then we proceed to the parking lot. Then from your car, you're supposed to go straight to your classroom, the area where you're supposed to be, or the library. And then you teach there the whole day, right? That first week. And then they have hand sanitizer for all teachers. In your classrooms, you could ask for gloves. They gave us disinfectant wipes and everything in our classroom. And so the idea was teachers were going to be like on a prep week so that we could get the classrooms ready. Our administration went classroom by classroom, and they did like the 6 feet of distance, social distancing. And then they counted how many kids could be in a classroom, right? So in my classroom, I have a big classroom. So the capacity they usually put almost 30 desks on my class.
How many you have now?
I have 16.
That's
so
good.
Like half of it.
But you have 16.
But I don't have 16 students showing up though.
How many?
My classroom has the capacity. So our district then gave our parents a survey. Do you want your kids to return in person or virtual?
Oh. Okay.
And so parents make the decision. So my students, 2 in my first period decided to be in person. So I have 2 in person and I have 19 online.
Okay.
And then my next period, I'm supposed to have 4 in person, but I've never had the whole 4 because they're absent. They just don't show up. So I may have 2 or 3 in person in that second one.
But do they join online, or they just
sometimes
forget about it?
Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Right.
But so I have capacity for 16, but my students only 3 picked to be online.
So what's going to happen next year? Like, do you guys have a plan for next year? Because next year you guys going to have
to be honest, it seems like my district decides things like
depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
So you might not know until like the week before.
Like until July. We're hoping July will know what's going to happen for first semester, but we're definitely going to be in person. What we don't know is how this pandemic is going to change education. Like, it's going to change it forever. Like right now, our kids come in person, but they all have to bring their laptops. And they're still in the computer. So the model that they adopted is that we're doing blocks.
Okay.
So we have 90-minute blocks. So our students are taking only 3 classes per quarter. And each quarter they get the half credit of what used to be the semester. So what we don't know, right, is that I lost my train of thought for next year. I was thinking about next year.
It's because you got the vid last year, and this is what happens.
Seriously, I have brain fog. But I'm trying to think. I was talking about
the blocks and the three classes and the
But before that, what was I saying? I was saying something about we were not gonna know until July
what the full blown plan is.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm like, hell. Yeah. So the thing is, We don't know because they usually just follow like whatever the numbers are.
But I'm going to tell you something. I prefer, like, that is good because it's better safe than sorry.
Oh, I was going to tell you. Okay, I remembered. So we have these blogs, but they're like 90 minutes. So how attendance works this year, because we don't know how it's going to change it forever, right? So attendance right now, in order for a kid to be marked present, they only have to attend half of the class. So if they are engaged for 45 minutes, they are marked present.
What?
So if they, at the 45-minute mark, they hang up, they were there for 45 minutes, so they're fine. The other 45 minutes.
So do they know that? Is this told to, because if you tell, I'm a teenager, and you tell me you only have to be there for 45 minutes, and you're good, what am I going to do? I hope you didn't tell them that.
So the thing is,
it's like when you tell your patient, okay, your next pain medication I can give it to you like at 3:45. They're going to be on that call right at 3:15. You can't do that?
Well, because supposedly what's supposed to happen is that we're supposed to teach class for 45 minutes, and then the other 45 minutes is supposed to be asynchronous. So we teach for 45 minutes, and then the other half is they apply. So whatever you taught the first 45, then they apply the next 45. But ELD students, you can't do that. They need guidance to go through the language activities. So we ELD teachers, we teach the whole 90 minutes.
Okay.
So I teach the whole 90 minutes.
They can still hang up at 45 minutes.
But they can still hang up at 45 minutes.
It's
so
just,
I start a class sometimes with my 16 kids. By the time the halfway mark is, I already have like maybe 11.
I'm like,
the other day I had 11 by the halfway mark. By the time we hang up and say, hey, see you tomorrow, I have 4.
Well, but I mean, but at least they say we have to like be positive, and at least they stay 45 minutes. Well, not all of them, because you went from 16 or 19 to 11, but
a lot of them hang up when what's particularly hard is they hate talking. So we do a lot of like the practice. So when we do the apply, it's a lot of unmute your mic, let's talk. We do breakout rooms. We do a lot of things.
It's difficult. It's difficult because, like, as being were you ESL when we moved here? Did they put you on ESL?
I was an ESL teacher, and then I became an English teacher.
When we moved back in high school.
Of course.
They put you, but you were only there a semester.
Yeah, with Miss Walski. Miss Walski, whatever you are, I don't know if you watch this, but I love you.
I was an ESL student for a year and a half. So that first semester, and then the following year. And I had to fight to be put on regular English, but I was like, this is insane. Because I was told, oh, you cannot pronounce a word. So we were talking about NASA, and I've told you this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I told this to my mom. Used to teach at the university, and I said this story once. But we were talking about NASA and the space shuttle and whatever. So I was reading, and I said, I'm like, I know this word. So I'm like, blah 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 shuttle, and the teacher's like, wait, in front of everybody, and she goes, you cannot say shuttle. And I was like, how do you say that word? And I'm like, and she's like, well, the word is said, you say shuttle, but you're an ESL student. You're supposed to say shuttle. I was like,
I did not know that story that you were supposed to say shuttle.
And I was like,
you know what?
And I remember, because it was my birthday, and remember Antonio?
Mm-hmm.
I remember because he had he had bought me a flowers for my birthday, and they were like, remember when they used to sell them, and they were like on this plastic vase. And I remember this because it was like the first, him and his sister were the first ones to welcome me into this craziness of what this country is. And he had given me flowers, and when she said that, I was so shocked that I went like I don't know what happened, and I kicked the flowers to the side. That's why but she told me that. So don't do that. If you're an ESL teacher, don't tell your kids to mispronounce words because they're Have you ever done that? I was like, that's it. Peace out. I went to the office. I'm like, I need regular English.
I think.
But this was like, okay, so let's be fair. This was how many years ago?
89, 90.
It was 1990. So it was.
I think, but you know what? I think, so people, how can I say it? There's a lot of people.
She's going to use big words that I don't know.
I'm not. I think there's a lot of people that come to the teaching profession because they want to change the world. They're idealistic, but there's a subset of people that have this savior complex. They feel like they need to save the kids. And I find that,
how does that translate into telling me?
I find that, and this is what I mean, like, and I know a lot of people are gonna be, maybe this will be controversial, but I find that's true.
Subscribe.
I find this to be more prevalent, and this is anecdotal. I don't have data, so don't tell me, where's your data?
Guys, I mean, this is just a conversation between sisters. We just want to know what's happening. So please, I know I don't have people putting comments because I only have one subscriber. Her. Not even my mom. You see what I'm saying? But if someone sees this video and you think it's funny, oh, look at this sister's crazy, blah, 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 and you, like, don't agree, please don't, like, put anything hateful because, like, well, if you do, it will give me a chance to actually block somebody. But no, I don't want to block anybody. I just remember this is anecdotal. Like she said, we don't have data. I mean, when I present stuff about the CDC and the WHO and blah, 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 I will have data.
But this is just a conversation. So what I found is that that's a lot. That happens a lot with teachers who come to the inner city to teach. And what I mean by inner city, in the case of Phoenix, it's kind of like in the urban setting in our district, but they come from other places, right? Like Gilbert or somewhere outside of the city. They have this idea about the kids that live in the city, and they have this idea of how the lives of those kids are, or they have this idea of what the kids can do or cannot do. So they come from a deficiency mindset of the kids like this. The kids don't have language. The kids don't have access. The kids don't have computers. The kids don't have whatever, right? And so when you think in a deficit way, and a student kind of like challenges your notion of what a student can do. And your
student is super awesome.
When they're challenged, right? It kind of like they have this cognitive dissonance, like, wait a minute, this doesn't go with what I know, right? With what I know it's true. So that's where those things happen, you know, and that's just to, how do you say, to disculpar, to, I cannot think of the word now.
Excuse.
Yeah, this teacher, but I'm thinking, like, I wonder, she might have meant well, but she had this notion that an ESL student probably doesn't know that word. So, wait a minute.
Well, that took us to Cape Canaveral. I knew about it.
I know.
Mm-hmm. So.
Yes, she did. So anyway,
no, but it's just, that's why, like, my senior year, I'm like, and I went to one first teacher, one other teacher, and I said, please, can you get me out of this class? So she went to the mattresses for me, and I love it, and I love my teacher. It was really crazy. I don't remember her name, but she was like amazing. She was amazing. But so this is like just a point of view of, because I've been guilty. You know, I'm gonna tell you, my dad, teacher, my mom, teacher, my sister, teacher. I'm a teacher, but I came via engineering and health
and all of that.
and just at the end of the day,
And then you have aunties teachers,
I
cousins
have
teachers.
aunties, cousins, aunts. But I've had my love-hate relationship, and I think you can see when a teacher cares and when a teacher, I don't know if they don't, it's not that they don't care.
They need to be counseled out of the profession. I'm going to talk
it-
like that. I'm a teacher. I can say it. Some people need to be counseled out of the teaching profession.
And, especially when you have like ESL students, not that ESL students and special education students are the same, but when you have students that are not the norm, they're not.
And let's just say it that way, kids that come from marginalized communities. Period.
See, that's a big word. So, no, but you see what I'm saying? I'm like,
palabra de doctorado.
Yes. But that's the thing, is like, I see my little one, she's at school, and it's been nothing but wonderful. They've been in person, and then they've been pulled back, and then pulled back in, and we've been doing this dance, but it's been in a way that has been respectful to parents and kids, and it's been very transparent. On the other hand, I have a high schooler that has special needs, and it's a free-for-all, and you're like, oh my God, what's happening? So you just have to kind of understand maybe that I always try to give them the benefit of the doubt, and that maybe they have kids on their own that they have to deal with these same situations. I don't know what it is. It's not going to be fixed right now, right? But it's something that now maybe in the future some teachers might rethink their profession. I've seen it in healthcare. A lot of healthcare workers have rethought, this is not for me, or this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Maybe we have teachers that hopefully go through that, and just because at the end of the day our kids are the ones that, I sound like a PSA ad, but at the end of the day, that's what we need to care about. I mean, again, I have a love-hate relationship because my loved ones are educators, and I would die if someone comes to me and says, just do your damn job.
I think it's very unfair when people say, well, teachers are afraid of whatever, and I'm like, you know what?
Oh my gosh, I was gonna finish your thought, but then I want to tell you something, because I want to know your take on it, and then that will be the last thing.
So they say that, teachers need to stop being afraid and need to do blah 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 blah. And I know some teachers have gone home like, well, I never signed up for whatever. I think, yes, they say no, but I've been working blah 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 from the beginning and da da da. And I'm gonna say this, just because teachers are fighting to be in a working conditions where they feel safe and secure, doesn't mean that because we're fighting for that because your profession is not fighting for that or is not getting it, why do you have to go all hateful on teachers? It's not that we love the kids, but for example, and this is something that I say at the beginning, especially when we didn't know how contagious it was and all that, and we did not have the vaccine and it was so uncertain, it used to bother me because I thought, so my own children are not important. What good would it be for my children to not have a mom if I got sick? To me, my fear was that I was going to be made to be in a classroom with 20 some kids, especially with so many people saying that they hate masks because you're out there, you hate masks, you don't wear them. Yeah, you. And
girl,
have your kids in my classroom and me having to be potentially put in a situation. And I understand that, but I was never close. They say, oh, schools are closed. I was lesson planning every week. I was 90 minutes in the computer every Monday through Friday. I was calling students. I was talking to moms of students that I had last year, just checking in on them. Even though they're no longer my students, I didn't have a need, but I was still checking on my students from last year. And to me, when we generalize and say, oh, teachers don't care, that's why they don't want to come back, it's really like, I don't know, you just think like, really? Like, why? What's the deal?
And the bad thing is, like I said, like the people that's in the news, like they always tend to find the outliers. They don't find the majority. And I think a lot of times, just because I've had, and I always say this, they're human beings at the end. And I see this with nurses, people's like, do your job. That's what you signed up for. I'm like, well, yeah, but come on, people. Like, I'm human at the same time. I have
Wear
loved
your
ones.
damn mask.
I have loved ones. So I can see, like, I could see that in your eyes, like in the way you talked and explained the situation. I could see that internal anguish that you had, because I want to be out there and teach my kids, but at the same time, I need to protect myself.
I prefer to teach in person.
I
people
love
think
teaching in person.
that I know there are a lot of teachers who say, "Ooh, I love online, whatever." I really don't. I love, when I became a teacher, was to create human connection, to make change. Maybe I'm an optimist, but I love that interaction with my students. And for people to think otherwise, that I'd rather stay at home and
It's
not be with my
horrible working
students,
from home.
I don't like it.
When I like, we've been doing teaching for a whole year. Oh, no. We need, I created a class. I'm going to teach a class in person in June. And I'm like, let's get back to the classroom, people.
I love my classroom. I love my classroom. I love being in my space of work. I love receiving students. I love saying
You
good morning
decorate
to the
your
kids.
classroom.
I
Yes.
do. I'm a high schooler teacher, but I like to have my classroom.
The first year that she was working here, what did we do? What theme? It was like those little
the
dolls.
precious moments.
So it's like, if we're from Puerto Rico, in Puerto Rico, like, the classrooms have themes, and it doesn't matter, little kids, big kids, it's just amazing.
You have a theme.
So,
my theme right now is like activism and social justice. I'm not a social
really?
justice.
So,
Yeah.
Am I surprised? Ask me. I am not surprised that that's the theme, but that's the thing. So, I wanted to ask you something, and this is the thing. Like, if you know my parents, if you know my aunt, well, but if you knew my aunt, if you know my cousins that teach, you could see good teachers. If you want to talk to a good teacher that cares, you message me and I'll put you in contact with one of my family members, because
we have a cousin who was up for Teacher of the Year in the state of Florida. Ada, woo woo! Shout out to Miss Ada Diaz Caraballo.
She doesn't subscribe. I'm mad at you. No, but
we have Alex. In New Mexico, he's a bilingual teacher of kindergarten.
She does.
Bless
And then
him.
we have a cousin in Puerto Rico. She teaches, what does Maria teach? Middle school or no?
No, she's elementary school, but I think she's fourth grade.
Fourth grade. My dad started teaching at vocational schools, and then he moved to the University of Puerto Rico. My mom worked at the university, started elementary school,
then middle school, then high school, then community college, and finally university.
I loved when she taught high school. I loved that high school in Puerto Rico. But you see what I'm saying? And so if you want to meet a teacher that cares, you message me and I will put you in contact with one of them, because it's very sad. But I want to ask my sister about this, and this is the last thing. So the other day I heard people is all up in arms in California because the kids over there have not been in school for 13, 14 months. Mm-hmm. Okay. Teachers, no, we don't feel safe. We want to protect our family, right? The whole spiel.
Yeah.
Well, people came to find out that a lot of the teachers that do not want to teach at the school because they don't feel safe have been working and teaching in person to the undocumented kids that are in retention centers. They need to be educated, absolutely. But what do you think about that? Because this now people is like, well, you don't teach my kids, but you teach those kids. Well, how do you feel about that? Because it's like I'm torn because I'm like, oh, that is so beautiful that they are teaching, but then at the same time I'm like, wait a minute, if that was my kid's teacher, I'm like, no, wait a minute, you need to go to my classroom.
So I am wondering, so a few things. So I don't know much about the situation. I'm thinking that, first of all, I imagine it's a small group of teachers. I imagine that.
But it could only be 3 teachers, but they make it sound like it's the whole entire community.
Thing. So right there, it's like we're talking about 0.000000000.00000, right? I would say like for those, let's say 15 teachers. Let's say 15 teachers are doing that, and they don't want to be in the classroom. I'm thinking maybe. See, it's like every human being, but I would say if you compare, maybe they think, well, my other students, they have computers, they have access to this, and this. This kids in the detention centers, they're basically in a place that is basically a prison. They don't have access to computers. A lot of them have been in detention for many months. And these kids eventually will be released. They're going to be in our system, and they need something. They need some sort of hope, right? And I've always.
I mean, like I've been like when I heard that, I was like the first thing that the person that was saying this in the news. He was all up in arms, right? Because his kid is in California. He's haven't been in classroom for 13, 14 months, and he's like, what the heck? Right?
But you know what? It's like the ones here in Arizona. All these teachers are going shopping and they're traveling and they're doing this, that, and the other, and they don't want to be in the classroom. Dude, like I haven't been shopping. Like, I'm going to be honest. Today was the first time I stepped on a mall since last year. Like the last time I went to a mall was like February.
Remember, one teacher goes shopping,
everybody goes. Teachers.
So I was like, you know what I'm saying? So the person that was saying it, so I don't, but I was just like my first reaction was like, well, I don't know. Like for me, you can say I'm a healthcare worker, because for me, I'm like, well, if they're volunteer, I bet you they're like, well, you volunteer, I'll give you the vaccine. I don't know. You don't know the circumstances, right? But I just heard that and I was like, oh, that's like an interesting, I don't know what it is. But yeah, so I'm sorry, this is a little bit long, but it was just the conversation. I wanted you guys to now, what? Nothing. I don't know. Okay. So
I'm just saying, tell her to invite me again.
I will invite you.
I want to be a YouTube superstar.
I only have 1 subscriber, so I don't know. Start emailing your friends to subscribe and we'll be stars. No, but I wanted you guys to get, because part of public health is looking at different things. And what she mentioned, when she's mentioning that she teaches students that have a second language, when she teaches students, when we talk about special ed students, when we talk about low socioeconomic status students, these are things that public health, these are determinants of health. And health is not just, do I have a cough or not? Health is mental health. And I think that just the stress of not being able, because a lot of these kids care and want to go to school. And just the stress of not being able to go to school, have a computer, be able to communicate with the teacher, that affects their mental health. So we have to make sure a lot of our kids are, the incidence of suicide, of suicide attempts, of anxiety disorders, depression disorders on these kids, it's huge. And there's a lot of data to support this. Weight gain, obesity, sedentary lifestyles. You do not understand how a teacher can have such a positive impact on someone's overall health.
Can I just say something real quick?
Yes.
And it's related to what you're saying. I think this pandemic, what it has done is it has brought to light and brought forth a lot of situations that are happening in our students' homes that were easily hidden, right?
Or overlooked, because
Or overlooked.
sometimes the kid asked for help, but they didn't know how to ask for help. But then now that you're a teacher and they have their camera on, and you see that, you see the background, or you see that now your student has to help the first grader, and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So those are things that a lot of people say, oh, public health. Well, public health is everywhere, and that's like our job as public health professionals, to try and figure out what's going on and what can we do for these students. So that's why I wanted to get a teacher one, because we turned very quickly in Arizona. We came from the Red for Ed, which was a huge movement to get equal, like good, I not good pay, because they don't get paid enough, but they got, everybody was behind the teachers. And then in a month or two, pandemic hits, and everybody's like, well, teacher, do your job. And like, we turned so quickly. We were behind you, and then now we're against you, and we're like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? So this is very, very important. Also, we have to care for our teachers. They're like, I worry about my sister about this stress. Sometimes she puts on Facebook, oh, I'm doing planners for my class, and it's like a Saturday night, and you're like, wait a minute, what are you doing, right? So we care about our kids, but we also have to care about our teachers and the administrators of the schools, and their mental health.
Grace and compassion for everybody.
And their mental health, because if they're not healthy, if they don't feel good, they're not going to be able to help our kids, and they're not going to be able to help us, because the best way that we can get our kids back to the classroom is to support them. So again, a love-hate relationship with teachers, but I'm like feeling the love now.
Thank you to the state of Arizona for putting us like in the line, one of the first people to get vaccines and shots. Thank you for
the county. Amazing.
The county kind of like partnered with our district to provide vaccination not only to the teachers in our district, but the teachers in they call it the educational footprint. So all charter and private school teachers in the city of Phoenix were able to go to our schools and get their shots. So,
and I mean, Arizona is doing a good job. The government and the presidency, we're not going to make this political, but we're getting the vaccines out here. I volunteered to vaccinate, and I've been doing that for the last 3 months, and I love that. That's like a me time. I love doing that. We're here. We're following the CDC. We're both vaccinated too. So the CDC said that we could be here. So that's why we don't have masks on. But go out there, get your vaccine if that's something that you believe in. Use your masks. Help us. Help teachers. Help the healthcare workers to make sure that we can get back to normal sooner rather than later. Again, subscribe to the channel. I don't know where the subscribe button is. I don't know.
Wherever it is.
Where is it?
We're
subscribe.
Like do you remember el chaparrón y el otro?
I know, but like the people that doesn't speak Spanish or whatever.
Yeah, sorry, that was a Mexican little skit show.
So, but just remember, do your part, and we're gonna get through this. Support your teachers, and let's do this. I don't know. Oh, here, I'm an essential worker. So basically, I'm kind of a big deal. I say that all the time, though.
You are.
So,
she is. She's a bull.
Yes, but we will see you later. Let's see what else I can come up with. Bye.
Deuces.